All right, guys, welcome to another edition of AstroTalk Tea. My name is Kelsey, and today we are investigating Leo season in the year 2020. So this year, Leo season runs from July 22nd through August 22nd. And we always begin this talk by discussing the sign, in this case Leo, and the different qualities and characteristics of that sign. So Leo is one of the 3 fire signs of the zodiac, and because of that, Leo definitely has those fiery qualities. Leo energy is very passionate, it's very competitive, it's very courageous, brave. But in addition to that, Leo is very loyal, it's incredibly loving. You know, they typically have kind of their inner circle of people and they are so attached to them. They love these people so deeply and with all their hearts. It's a really wonderful thing. Leos additionally are very proud people. You know, Leos want to be recognized for what they do well. They want to be recognized and appreciated for their contributions. Leo energy also is really a great leadership energy. I think to get to that point, Leos have to develop a little bit more confidence in themselves and step out of that ego space a little bit. And when they're able to do that, they're really wonderful leaders who are able to kind of encourage and be your best cheerleader and kind of love you into being the best version of yourself. Additionally, Leo energy is really playful. It's really open-hearted. They love to have fun and have a good time. Leo energy is very authentic. It's very much about living from the heart space and what is true and authentic for each person individually. And then also, I'm sure we've all heard the stereotype that Leo is a very dramatic sign, but keep in mind that dramatic does not have to have a negative connotation. There's actually many positive connotations of the word dramatic, and we can think of that as being, you know, theatrical and expressive and emotive and kind of putting ourselves out there and not being afraid to shine. Those are all things that are really important characteristics of Leo that people who don't have as much Leo energy in their chart can really work a little more consciously at embodying. Additionally, you know, the sign of Leo is connected to the sun in astrology. It's also connected to the idea of children. So all things that bring joy and lightheartedness and playfulness and light, you know, all those types of things are connected with Leo energy. Leo energy is really about living a full life, and even sometimes a little bit of overindulgence or a little bit of hedonism here and there can fall in the realm of Leo energy as well. A couple things to watch out for with Leo energy. The first one has to do with the ego. So just making sure that when Leo energy is strong, like it is right now at this time of year, that we don't get overly in our ego. Recognizing that we don't always have to be the center of attention. Not everything is about us. Learning how to separate our true selves from our ego selves. The second thing is, along those same lines of drama, which I mentioned earlier, you know, how do we step out of drama and how do we recognize that, like, not everything is such a big deal. Let's learn to detach ourselves a little bit from situations or from detaching from outcomes, needing things to be a certain way for us to feel good about them. You know, I think practicing that skill of detachment is really important to help keep Leo energy balanced and keep it on a higher vibration. And then lastly, you know, a thing to watch out for when Leo energy is strong is self-consciousness. Which is kind of funny because, you know, all these things about Leo, it's like they're proud, they put themselves out there, they love to be seen and recognized, all this. So you would think like, oh my gosh, Leo energy would have no problem with being self-conscious, but it's actually the opposite. There does tend to be this idea of wanting to fit in, wanting to be liked and loved and appreciated, and then Leos sometimes feeling down on themselves if they don't think that those things are happening for them. So just remembering to really embody the authentic part of Leo energy, the part of living from the heart, because when you act and live and love in a way that is true to you, that self-consciousness melts away. We don't care what anybody else thinks because we love and approve of ourselves. So those are all important considerations during Leo season as well. So knowing those characteristics, you know, some of us might have strong Leo energy in our astrological charts, others of us maybe a little bit less so. But regardless of that, right now, in this July 22nd to August 22nd time frame, we're all swimming in this Leo energy. So what is it that we can all be doing to take best advantage of the situation? The first thing has to do with that idea of playfulness. So during this month, really let yourself connect with your inner child and what would be really fun or playful to the inner child you. So I'm talking like throwing it back. I'm talking like go swing on a swing set, run through a sprinkler, buy ice cream from an ice cream truck, play with sidewalk chalk, simple things that can kind of bring us back into a positive, childlike, playful state. Second thing is to let your light shine this month, whatever that means for you. So that could range from, you're going to redo your resume this month, really highlighting all your abilities and your skills and everything you can bring to the table. Maybe that has to do with if you're a writer and you are interested in submitting your work to a publication, now's a great time to do that if you feel ready. This can be, if you have a course or something you want to teach or share, starting to put yourself out on social media or starting a newsletter, or, if you are, let's say, an artist or musician, maybe you've created a bunch of different pieces over the last 6 months and now's the time to display them somehow or let people see it or hear it. There's so many different ways to let our light shine this month, and I think it's important that we allow ourselves to be out there, so to speak. Along those lines of what we talked about earlier with that self-consciousness, this is a great month to develop more self-confidence if you feel like you are lacking in that department. I think one of the great ways to do this is with a mantra. If you're not familiar with mantras, they're just simple phrases that you can repeat day in and day out that can kind of help build certain energies within you. So developing some type of confidence mantra would be great. You can also Google like mantras for confidence. Celebrating your wins, however large or small those might be. And then I think also looking for the upsides in our failures. I think sometimes with failure that can be tough on the ego, which we know is part of Leo energy, but instead of looking at what was negative or bad or didn't work, also make sure you're focusing as much on what are the positives that you can take out of a quote-unquote failure. What can you learn from that experience that helps you grow and become better? And I think focusing on those is really important as well. This is the time, as we talked about before, to live from your heart. So it's also a really good time to do some heart maintenance. So I would recommend focusing on the heart chakra, that energy center here, and thinking about, whether it's doing a meditation on the heart chakra, working with crystals or stones that feed the heart, doing some energy clearing yourself or with a professional. And I also think just like tuning in more and listening to the guidance that comes from your heart, that is a way that you can live really authentically during this time. Also, Leo season, as we talked about, like the drama, the flair, the expressiveness, the theatricalness, this is a time to put a little bit of flair into your appearance. So maybe you're going to get a different kind of haircut this month. Maybe you're going to color your hair. Maybe you're going to upcycle something from your wardrobe. Maybe you're going to, buy a new piece of clothing or jewelry that has a little more pizzazz, or, just like, don't be afraid to fully embody your own style, whatever that is, and allow people to see you, allow yourself to attract a little bit of positive attention. I think that could be really fun and playful, good thing to do during Leo season. And then lastly, the advice I'm going to give us all for this next 30 days is, well, probably even longer than that based on the astrology, but definitely during Leo season, is to respond, not react. There's a couple reasons I say this. One of which is, it does have to do with Leo energy. Leo energy being so fiery and passionate can be very quick to react to things, especially triggers that make them feel self-conscious or feel like they've been slighted. Leos don't always love that energy. Nobody loves that energy, but that can be harder for Leo energy. And excuse me, additionally, we have Mars entering the sign of Aries. It happened at the end of June, so it's been about a month now, but it's going to be here for 6 months. And Mars in Aries can be a very energetic, combative, combustive type of energy in certain ways. So I think a great mantra that we can all work with is respond, don't react. Next thing is talking about healing modalities that you can be working with during Leo season. And typically I always start with a yoga practice. So because Leo is really fiery and energetic, this is definitely a great time for physical yoga practice, asana, if that's something that you do and are interested in. And I'm just going to really encourage you to get super playful in your practice. So that can mean exploring something new in terms of a new style of yoga, maybe Kundalini yoga, tantric yoga, something you've never done before. It can also mean getting really playful in your physical practice, maybe trying out some arm balances or inversions, or maybe it can mean like bringing a little bit of rhythm, of dance, of other type of bodily movement into your normal routine or practice. That could be really fun and exciting as well. When we think about breath work for this season, I am going to ask you to totally embody those like Leo emotive theatrical vibes. And I want the breath work to be loud, to be expressive. I want it to make sound. I want you to really feel that release from your gut and your heart up and out of your mouth and your nose. Of course, lion's breath, the symbol for Leo is the lion. So lion's breath is an excellent one to be practicing over this next month. That's also really fun and playful in my opinion. So I want you to think about, again, breath work that feels like a deep release, that makes noise, that lets it all out, something that is a little more dramatic, has a little oomph behind it. And herbs, when I talk about those, some of the herbs for this month are actually foods. So the first thing I would recommend bringing into your diet, if it's not already there, is watermelon. Two reasons I say that. One, because in the Northern Hemisphere, August tends to be a very hot, humid month, and watermelon really helps to cool down the body. But in addition to that, watermelon is connected with this energy of the childlike energy, the joy and the play. In the tarot, it's connected to, I believe the card is the Six of Cups. So eating watermelon can really help you embody that energy and those vibes. Additionally, thinking about mint. Mint is extremely cooling, and also because we have this fiery astrological energy happening, with our tempers and the idea of learning how to respond and not react. I think eating mint can be helpful for that too. So I drink a protein shake most mornings, and I actually buy fresh spearmint, and I just put the leaves in the shake, and it's as if I'm having mint ice cream or something. It's quite good. So, excuse me, you could do that. Additionally, if you want to work with herbs, I'm going to recommend both hawthorn and hibiscus this month. Hawthorn and hibiscus, you can make tea out of them. You can make iced tea. The weather's super hot where you are. And those are great herbs for supporting the heart. And we've talked again about how Leo in kind of physical astrology, medicinal astrology, is connected with the heart, cardiovascular, blood pressure, all those things. So hawthorn and hibiscus can be good ones to do some research on and perhaps rotate into your diet as well this month. And then lastly, stones for the month. I have 2 stones picked out. I don't have actually either of them on my person, but reading about them, I think these are great ones to work with if you do have them. The first one is citrine, and it's really great for self-expression and for boosting creativity. Because one thing I didn't mention earlier with Leo energy is that we typically think of creativity being something we attribute to Pisces or Libra or even the sign of Taurus, but I actually think Leo is one of the most creative signs of the zodiac as well. So I think citrine, when you work with that stone, you meditate with it, it can really help to bring out your own innate creativity in different ways, and then you can allow that to shine, another theme of Leo season, and when you do. The second stone is peridot, and I'm choosing this stone for this month because peridot is really good for softening the heart. It's really good for helping to melt anger and helping us to step outside of ego, to recognize that, our authentic self is one thing, and again, our ego self is a different thing. They both serve a wonderful purpose in our life, but I think definitely in at least American culture, we tend to be really ego driven, and peridot is going to help you step out of that a little bit and really get back into the heart. So now that we've talked about what we should be doing and the yoga and breath work and stones and herbs and all that we can work with during Leo season, the last tidbit here, the juicy stuff, is the astrology of right now. And on perfect theme with 2020, it's a little cray out there. So the first thing I want to draw to your attention from an astrological standpoint is something I talked about earlier, where the planet Mars has entered the constellation of Aries. And this is something that happens every 2 years, so it's not, significant in that way. But what is significant is that Mars is going to go retrograde September through about mid-November. That, again, only happens about every 2 years as well. And the retrograde basically means that instead of spending, 6 weeks in a sign of Aries, it's going to spend 6 months. Starting from the end of June until January 6th of 2021, Mars will be in the sign of Aries. Now, Mars is very comfortable here. Mars is definitely powerful in Aries because that sign and that planet go together, like when we think of astrology rulership. So what does that mean for all of us then? How does that translate down to like the human physical plane? Mars in Aries is going to be, it's a lot of energy. It's a lot of energy that can get really combative and combustive, those words I used earlier, when it is not channeled into something specific, okay? So what I mean by this is like Mars in Aries gives a huge amount of courage, a huge amount of willpower, a huge amount of energy to get things done. It is, Mars and Aries both are connected to the idea of the warrioress, the warrior, fighting the good fight, fighting for what you believe in, having the energy to start projects and see them through. All of these are really great ways that we can use the energy of Mars in Aries. And if we don't use it that way, it can become a lot of anger, something that's built up and then kind of explodes out at different times and isn't really all that productive sometimes. So I am asking each one of us to learn a little bit more about this so that we can be really mindful of honing this energy over the next 6 months and letting it work for us. And also connected with the mantra earlier of respond, don't react. It's definitely a time to give people a little bit more grace. Give yourself a little bit more grace and those around you, because there may be tempers flaring and anger, and I think we're going to see it both on a personal level and playing out on a global level as well. So just remember that when you come up against that type of energy, just say to yourself like, okay, I know partially what this is connected to, and it doesn't mean you should ignore it. It doesn't mean that you should be afraid of it. It just means be aware of it. So how can we transmute all that fiery, passionate energy into something really positive action? In addition to Mars and Aries, of course, every season has a new moon and a full moon, and it just so happens that the full moon comes first this time. So Monday, August 3rd, is going to be the full moon in the sign of Aquarius. Because remember, wherever the sun is moving through Leo all this month. At the full moon, that means the moon is always in the opposite sign. So the full moon is going to be at 11 degrees of Aquarius. If you're familiar with your own astrological chart, you should look up where 11 degrees of Aquarius is for you. That'll give you a little bit more information about how this full moon could play out for you specifically. But some interesting energy at this full moon. We have Mars square Jupiter, which is totally the energy of overdoing it, like a little overzealous, overindulgent. I feel like with this full moon, it's really good if you can have like a family member, a partner, a close friend who can kind of help you check your impulses that day. Sunday the 2nd into Monday the 3rd, we might feel like, oh, we really want to do something, blah, blah. And then someone close to us might be like, not sure that's a great idea. So just being aware of impulses that come to you at around that time. And Mercury is going to be opposite Saturn at this full moon as well. So I think that might make communication feel a little bit restricted. It's like we have stuff that we want to say, but we don't quite know how to communicate it. Our message is not getting across clearly. So be aware that there might be some frustration that comes up around that near the full moon as well. But really, one of the main things of this full moon is that Uranus is making a square to the full moon. So that can be definitely like some surprise, some upheaval. A lot of astrologers talk about how full moons are a time where like secrets are revealed and all this stuff. And it can be. It's not necessarily playing out that way always for each one of us. But I do think with Uranus being in the mix there and making an angle to the full moon, there is the possibility that something might be revealed, or we clue into a piece of information that is like a little bit surprising or shocking, or kind of shakes things up for us in some way. So I think what's important to remember at this moon is that whatever comes into your mind, whatever you feel, you know, this full moon is a time to sit and marinate on those thoughts and feelings. It's not necessarily a time to be really expressive about them, just because with that Mercury Saturn communication isn't going to be like tip top that day. And in addition, you know, the full moon in Aquarius is always about finding balance between the logical, the rational, and the emotional. It's always about finding the balance between our ego drives and altruistic drives or humanitarian stuff. It's kind of that the Leo Aquarius polarity, Sun in Leo, Moon in Aquarius. Those are some of the big themes that we want to be thinking about. So just remember, to recap, for the full moon, you know, whatever information might come to you, or you might read or see or hear on that full moon, just kind of keep it to yourself. Experiment with those thoughts and ideas in your mind before acting on them. Remember not to overdo it. And just remember that if your communication feels a little tough on that full moon, it's something that will pass, you know. So a couple days later, I think you'll have a lot more clarity, both of communication and in your mind. And then lastly, coming up in this month later on, right towards the end of Leo season on August 18th, remember the Leo season changes on August 22nd, it'll become Virgo season. So right before that, on August 18th, we have the new moon in the sign of Leo. It's going to be at 26 degrees of Leo, so you can look at that in your chart. What's so interesting is this is like the third or fourth moon in a row that we've had a very specific and tight aspect to Saturn. So Saturn are themes of like restriction and duty and responsibility, and you know, Deborah Silverman, the astrologer, always talks about Saturn as like the principal. You know, you have to go into the principal's office and deal with the situation in front of you. Like Saturn has that kind of energy to it. So I think it's interesting. Again, it's no great surprise, I don't think, that we're gonna have another new moon that's gonna have that very like Saturnian feel to it, which isn't like super light and playful, but that's okay, because that's what the rest of Leo season is for. Additionally, at this new moon, Mars is going to be squaring Saturn and Pluto both in the sky. So I think we are going to see, this is like a total quagmire. I think we're going to see like excessive use of force, inappropriate use of will and of power. Probably that's going to play out more on like a global stage than it is for each of us interpersonally, but depending on how this falls in your chart, I mean, it definitely could affect you personally as well. A clash of wills, you know, is the Mars, Pluto, Saturn energy, it's going to be big. So I'll be interested to see what's going on around that August 18th time frame. But what I want each of us to focus on personally for this new moon in the sign of Leo is, you know, the moon and sun are going to be trining that Mars and Aries. So it's a lot of this fire energy. So it's a great time to start new projects, something you're passionate about, something that's a true reflection of you and what you love and who you are. With all this fire making positive angles, you're gonna have the energy to get it done. It's time to get excited. It's time to get started. You know, I feel like a lot of this year has been a lesson in patience, a lesson in a waiting game. But I do think with this new moon, despite what we might see going on around us externally in the world, internally, we should start making intentions for steps that we want to take forward, ways that we want to use that fire energy to get things rolling in our lives, even if it looks a little different than we had maybe envisioned at the beginning of 2020. We all know that the plans for 2020 are out the window at this point. So definitely use that new moon and really feel into, you know, passionate, loving, authentic, heart-centered intentions for that time. So thank you guys so much for joining me. I know this was a little bit longer of a video today. Whoops, but there's a lot to talk about for Leo season. So go out, enjoy, have fun, be playful and childlike, and fill yourself up with love and all kinds of good things during this Leo season. If you're ever interested in learning more, you can follow me on Instagram. My Instagram handle is _astro_yogi. From there, you can find my website and my email, etc. So if you ever have questions, would love to hear from you. But thank you guys so much for joining me for Astro Talk and Tea, and have a great Leo season.